Hi, Namaste friends. Once again, welcome you to the session on Bhagavad Gita. This is my sixth lecture. How are you? I hope you are all fine, making use of your time, working at home, helping your parents, or you are in the diocese with parish priest or bishop's house, minor seminary, wherever you are. Be good, do good, and make use of your time. I'm also sure that you have been following the previous lectures, not only mine, the lectures of others. Hoping to begin our seminary maybe in few months, 1 or 2 months. So we'll update you. But till then, update yourself with the reading, studying, revising, etc. So we have begun the chapter-wise study on Bhagavad Gita. During the last session, we dealt about the first 3 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Today we continue with 4th, 5th and 6th chapter. So now we move on to the 4th chapter. The name of the 4th chapter is Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. What is the meaning of this? The meaning is path of renunciation. Path of renunciation of action in knowledge. Action in knowledge. So first, as usual, let's look at the structure of the chapter. It has 42 verses. Verses from 1 to 18 deals with Karma Yoga, the path of action. It also speaks about the doctrine of incarnation or avatara and how God influences the world. Then from verses 19 to 23, we come across the behavior of a jnani and his practices. Who is a jnani, known person? Who is an intellectual? And what is his nature? Verses 24 to 32 deals with various kinds of sacrifices. For example, they say there are 12 kinds of sacrifices or yajnas, jnana yajna, tapo yajna, etc. So ultimately it says that knowledge is also a sacrifice, knowledge is also a yajna. Then the last part is verses 33 to 42, which speaks about Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge. You see, in this chapter, both the path of knowledge and the karma, path of action, are tried to be synthesized. They are seen together, combination of these two paths. This chapter is all about the renunciation of action in knowledge. So with regard to the attainment of divine knowledge, there are 3 analogies used in this chapter. First one is verse 19, fire of knowledge, the imagery or the analogy of fire. As the fire purifies, so the divine knowledge purifies us. Second, chapter 4 verse 36, raft of knowledge. Raft means it's like a boat, that which helps you to cross the water. As the boat or raft crosses the ocean or river, so the divine knowledge crosses the ocean of sin. With the divine knowledge, you can cross over from sin to goodness. Then the third analogy used is in verse 42, that is sword of knowledge, khadga. As the sword cuts the things, so the divine knowledge cuts ignorance. These are the three imageries used. There can be more, but just to highlight. Now, in this chapter, action is understood in different ways. So accordingly, action can be sakama karma, nishkama karma, akarma, vikarma or nishiddha karma. Karma, you know, action means karma. Sakama karma. What is sakama karma? Karma means action, kama means desire, sa means with desire. The action which is done with the desire to earn fruits is sakama karma. Action with the desire for results. Second one is nishkama karma. Nishkama karma means action without any desire for fruits. Desireless action. Desireless action. Action done without any attachment but with the detachment. Third one is akarma. Akarma means non-action, inactivity. It's a kind of laziness. Not wanting to do anything. That is akarma. And the fourth one is vikarma or nishiddha karma. It means prohibited action, forbidden action. You are not supposed to do a particular action. For example, do not say lie, do not kill, do not steal. So this is the prohibited action or vikarma. Now mainly the action which comes out very strongly in Bhagavad Gita and in this chapter is nishkama karma. This is the doctrine which is proposed now and then all through the Bhagavad Gita. Now, what is the purpose of this nishkama karma? Nishkama karma, the role of nishkama karma in relation to knowledge. You see the chapter heading, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. That means jnana is there, karma is there. What is the purpose of desireless action with regard to the knowledge? For the attainment of knowledge, karma prepares the field. It purifies the mind. That is the motive of having desireless action, doing desireless action. This means not inactivity, it is rather giving up the results. It is giving up egoistic tendencies. It is like St. Paul who says, "It is not I who live, but Christ who lives in me." When one works without ego, she or he makes the highest sacrifice, highest yajna. It is done by taking recourse to the advice and guidance of the teacher. So, verse 34 says, to attain the knowledge, one has to approach the teacher. And how should you approach the teacher? To get what? You should approach the teacher with humble reverence. By humble reverence, one should be surrendering, prostrating before the teacher, Guru. Secondly, you should have the desire for sincere inquiry. You clear the doubt by asking the sincere questions. You want to know something more, something better and something deeper. And thirdly, by service. You should serve the teacher by listening to him. Tulsidasa, in his Tulasi Ramayana, one of the versions of Ramayana, he says, a guru who takes money from the disciples and does not remove their ignorance goes to hell. Therefore, disciple is entitled to learn, get guidance. Also, on the side of the teacher, it is his or her responsibility to impart the knowledge to the disciple or the student so that he removes the ignorance of the student. Some of the important verses in this chapter, there are two verses are very important, very significant. First one is verse 7. You see the verse 7. I'll chant this, then we shall know the meaning. Om yada yada hi dharmasya glanirbhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srajamyaham. Om shanti shanti shanti. You know the meaning of this. It speaks about the avatara, speak about the purpose of incarnation, purpose of God descending. What is the purpose? God says, Krishna says, I manifest myself whenever there is decrease of righteousness and increase of unrighteousness. So this is the purpose, God comes down. This is the meaning. Another verse which is also important in continuation to the previous verse, verse 8. What is the verse? Om paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samstapanatraya sambhavami yuge yuge. Om shanti shanti shanti. What is the meaning? For the protection of the good, for destruction of the evildoers, for the setting up of law of righteousness, I come into being age after age. That means God descends in different forms to punish the wicked and reward the good. Dushta shikshaka, sishta rakshaka. That is the meaning of this verse. That is the purpose of Avatara also. Now some aspects or highlights for our discussion or reflection. Verse 11 speaks of theology for all. That means this verse expresses the viewpoint of interreligious dialogue. What does this verse say? With whatever motive or goal people worship me, I reward them accordingly. These are the words of Krishna to Arjuna. With whatever background, motive or goal, if someone comes to me, I will reward them according to their motive, according to their interest and desire. This one verse, you read it from your text. Second important verse is verse 13. It speaks about the class system. We know from the classes of last year or first year philosophy, introduction to Hinduism, we know that the first reference to class system and class system is found in Purusha Sukta, that is found in Rig Veda, that is the hymn of the cosmic person. Here also in this verse, Krishna says, the four divisions of society were created by me based on the aptitude and the nature, based on the individual interest and inherent ability. One is called to be Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So initially this was a class system. The outcome of class system, when it got fixated to a particular group of people, then it began to be caste system. That is not the issue of our discussion, but there is a reference of class system here. We ask the question, If God is liberative, why then there should be division? If everyone is from the same God, why there is discrimination? We also should remember this discrimination is the outcome of class system, not the class system itself. Class system began, the purpose is for the stratification, for the organization of the society, smooth running of the society. But there were misuses. People who were interested in teaching joined there. Their children, even if they are not interested to teaching, they still remained in teaching, and others were not welcome. Thus caste system developed. Thus the inferior, superior, higher and lower, these binaries or the divisions came in. Next topic of interest is verse 19. It speaks about the profile of a pandita, profile of a knowledgeable person. What is the profile discussed? Such a person is free from selfish desires, selfish motives, nishkama karma. His actions have been burnt by the fire of knowledge. His ego is burnt and he is enlightened. This is about the chapter 4th of Bhagavad Gita. Next chapter is chapter 5. Chapter 5 is called as Karma Sannyasa Yoga, path of renunciation of work, renunciation in work. So, first of all, as usual, we see the structure. From verses 1 to 6, it speaks about the unity between action and contemplation, karma and jnana. Okay, karma and jnana. Now, here one is practice, another one is theory. The names can be used is Sankhya Yoga, that is theory, and Karma Yoga, that is practice. Arjuna asks Krishna, which is important, action or jnana, contemplation, theory or practice? Krishna replies to him saying, both are leading to the destiny, both will lead you to the goal. This is about the verse 1 to 6. 7 to 12 deal with how to practice these two means of liberation, karma and jnana, action and contemplation. Next, from verses 13 to 26, they distinguish between Sankhya Yoga theory and Karma Yoga practice. And from verses 27 to 29, it is this both theory and practice are synthesized. That means we need both action and knowledge, jnana and karma. Have devotion in your meditation and don't forget to do your action. Contemplate the goal, but do not abandon the action. Do not abandon the action, but you abandon the results of your action. Don't look for the results of your action. That is, you leave it to the Lord. Which is superior, jnana and karma? I said, as Krishna said, both lead to the same goal. Karma Yoga is easier to practice, but it is meant for some people. Those who find in Jnana Yoga find easier to practice Jnana Yoga, they can practice Jnana Yoga, but both lead to the goal. Especially the verse 13, before that, verse 2 says, both renunciation and practice of work lead to the highest bliss. Of these two, practice of work is better than the renunciation of work. This verse 2 is sometimes also used for obituary columns. So verse 13 has another analogy, imagery, which says about the city of 9 gates. Human body having 9 openings, 9 gates, which are those 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nasal cavities, mouth, reproductive organ, and the excretory organ anus. These are the 9 gates of human body. Human body is called city of God, having 9 gates. Okay. Important verse in this chapter is chapter 5 verse 18 is important. Om Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Swapakecha Panditah Samadarshinaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. What is the meaning? An enlightened person looks at a learned and humble Brahmana, an outcast, even a cow, an elephant, or a dog with an equal eye. Samadarshinaha. He does not make a category or he does not show any partiality to anyone. He looks at everyone equally. This is the idea of chapter 5. We move on to the last chapter, that is chapter 6. Chapter 6 is Atma Sanyama Yoga, path of meditation. Structure from verses 1 to 4 speaks about Karma Yoga, path of action. Verses 5 to 10 speak about characteristics of a person who has conquered senses, that is Jitendriya. So here Jitendriya, the verse especially the verse 6 says, the self or the mind becomes the enemy for one who rejects it, neglects it, or one who does not have control over the mind or the self. It becomes a friend for the one who has control of his own self or his own mind. Guru Nanak says, master the mind and you will master the world. Basically, the very difficult thing is the control of our mind. You want to study something, sit for something, but your mind is easily distracted. For example, our mind may easily go to the mobile, WhatsApp, Facebook, or Google, or YouTube, or some other game. So for a serious and systematic discipline study, we need to train our mind. Control our mind is very important. Then verses 11 to 15 speaks about how to meditate concretely. Here it proposes 2 ways, Stiram and Sukham. That means you should be steady in your meditation, and also you should have a comfortable posture. Stira means steady and Sukha means comfortable. You should be comfortable, you should be also steady, unwavering. Next one is verses 16 to 23 speaks about the various ways of meditation, how you should meditate. Those aspects are explained. Next one, verses 24 to 28 speaks about the object of meditation. Object of meditation means on what you should meditate. Here there are 2 ways proposed. One is Saguna and Nirguna God. Saguna God means God with attributes, God with qualities. Nirguna means God without attributes, without qualities. So we have in Christianity also, they are called Cataphatic and Apophatic. One cataphatic means assertion. Apophatic means negation. So assertion means Saguna Brahman or Saguna God. God has love. God has justice. God has forgiveness. You see the image of a father loving his children. So you see the attributes of God. God as hugging or embracing. God as smiling, etc. Whereas the other aspect is you are explaining or making the God as the object of your meditation without attributes. Nirguna. Nirguna means here you are thinking of God by what He is not. For example, God is not injustice. You cannot really explain or comprehend Him. He is ineffable. That's why by negation, not this, neti, neti. God is not hatred. God is not negligence. God is not foolishness or jealousy or hatred, etc. Grumbling. Okay? God is something more. But you are not able to express it. Language limits Him. That's why. So, there are two aspects proposed. Next one is 29 to 32. Here, you should meditate God with attributes. Saguna Dhyana. Because normal human beings cannot reach the level of meditating God without attributes. So you meditate Saguna Dhyana means you meditate Krishna or God with attributes. Next one is 33 to 36. It speaks about the control of the mind. One should have solid control over one's own mind. Again, Tulsi Ramayana says, contemplation without detachment, meditation without distraction is like, without detachment, with attachment is like jewels on the body, ornaments on the body without clothes. You are actually naked, but still you are attached to the gold. It is something like that. With the attachment means you are not wanting to forgo the things you are attached, still you want to establish relationship with the Lord. And final part is 37 to 47. It speaks about what happens to one who has given up yoga, given up the spiritual journey. Arjuna asked Krishna, what happens to the person if one has given up the spiritual journey, spiritual sojourn? Then Krishna replies him, one who has right intention and right will not give up his spiritual journey. He will discern and continue. But one who has given up yoga or spiritual journey is given another chance, another opportunity when he takes the another birth. This is about the structure. Basically, this chapter speaks about spirituality. So it speaks about the union with the divine through meditation. Buddhism says, give up your desire, then you will be liberated. You will become Buddha. Whereas Bhagavad Gita says, you have the desire, have the attachment to the Lord. Attachment to the Lord, not to the material objects, material things. And finally, verses 30 of this chapter says, one who can seize me everywhere and everything in me is never lost to me, nor I to him. That means it is a call to experience the Lord in everything and to see everything in the Lord. Then you will attain the Lord. Lord will bring closer to Him. These are the basic ideas we have seen contained in 3 chapters, chapter 4, 5 and 6. So that's all for now. See you next time. Have a nice time. Take care.